Now, you might be asking yourself where we get started, or where do we start with Revit modeling? And the first thing that we do is actually to set up the levels. So we have the level tool there. And of course, the levels in Revit, you cannot add them in this particular view. That is a floor plan view, or else any other plan view. You cannot be in a position to add levels in a plan view. You can only add levels in a section view or in an elevation view. So in that case, you need to open a certain elevation view. It could be any, or else you can open a certain section view. So I'm just going to double click on one of these particular elevations, and you can note that once you open an elevation view, the level tool is actually active. But once you are in another floor plan view, or else in any other plan view, or even in a 3D view, you note that the level is going to be grayed out, so you cannot activate it. So levels are added in elevations and also in sections. So what are levels exactly? So levels are actually imaginary horizontal planes that are, of course, they are infinite. So they are do not have an end. So they are infinite. They actually they are like points, datum points, and these points are represented by a horizontal plane, which of course is infinite. And by default, of course, if you are using a template, and this is the architectural template, we are going to have two levels. If you are using a template based on none, you're going to have at least one level. So currently we have two levels, and you cannot delete, although you can delete levels, you cannot delete the last level, because you need to have at least one level. So levels are imaginary planes, we have seen that, and we can try to see that in 3D. So the good thing is that the levels are as well visible in 3D. Now, if I hover the cursor of a particular level, note that a plane is going to be shown by a blue highlight, so showing that or giving you a notion that levels are actually planes. Although here they seem to have a boundary here, but of course in your mind or in your consciousness, you should note that levels are actually infinite. So levels are actually points defined by height, and on them you can now place the various objects. For example, if I create level 1, if I have level 1, you can associate that particular level with a floor plan, and then you are going to create what we call a floor plan. You are going to create a floor plan itself. For example, I have this particular level 1 and level 2. They are both associated with floor plans level 1 and level 2. You can just proceed and open these particular floor plans by double clicking, and an example is level 1. So you can proceed now and place object on this particular level 1. So they are of course defined by height. For example, if I select this particular level 2, you can note that the temporary dimension show that the height is 4000 from this level to the next level. So that is it. Now the levels are important such that they control the height, and that's why they are actually placed under the datum points. So they control the height of the various positions in your project. For example, levels are the ones that are going to be used to generate the story levels, or the floor plan levels. So for example, you can have ground floor, second floor, third floor, fifth floor, all the way to 20 or more than 20 floors. So in that case, you create the various floor levels by using the levels, and then you associate those levels with the floor plans, as we are going to see. So that is one of the use of levels. Another use of levels is to create points of important elements. In this case, you do not associate them with floor plan levels, but they are just used to create, or used as control to show the height of certain components. Now let's say, for example, you want to add a parapet wall to a certain model, you may want to show the height of that particular parapet wall. So in that case, you use a level as a datum, but in this case, you do not associate it with the floor plan. Let's say, for example, you want to show where the eaves start or where the eaves should proceed. In that case, you use the levels, but you do not associate them with the floor plans. So they are like standalone levels that are just there to show the height, or they are there to just be controlled to show the height. We are going to see that later. But for now, let's see how you can create levels. We have seen that what levels are. They are imaginary planes, and they are of course infinite. And then we've seen that they can be used to create the floor plan levels or the various floor plans, and also they can be used as datums to show the positions of various components or various elements in a building. And in that case, you don't need to associate them with a certain floor plan or with a certain plan. You associate plans, or you associate levels with both ceiling plans and also floor plans. We are going to see that as we learn more about levels. Now, to start with, we are going to see how you create levels. We've said that you can only create levels from an elevation view or layers from a section views. Once you proceed to another view, the level tool is going to be grayed out and you cannot use it. Now, to create level, you just need to proceed and then click on the level at this particular point. And then note we have the status bar. Okay, we have the, sorry, this is called the options bar. We have the options bar. But before we look at it, let's now see how you can create a particular level. In this case, you just need to click. And before you click, probably you should first of all use the dynamic input to define the height. So in this case, you can just type in the value as you wish, 4000, and then you press enter. So once you press enter, you have the position now to move the level here. So move it as shown on the screen, and then you can align it. We covered the reference line. So note how the reference line are telling me the straight point of where the other heads of the other pre-existing levels are. So once it is there, you can just click, or else if you want to click at any other point, there is no problem. So I can click at that particular point, and now that particular level is actually created. So now we have 3 levels. I can add the 4th level. Now with this one, I'm just going to click at a random point, or I'm going to click at this particular point at a random height, and then I draw it. I'm going to use the references like that, and then I proceed and use the temporary dimensions to change or to control the height. So I can click on this particular temporary dimension, and then I type 4000 and then press enter. So you can use that option of using the dynamic input to control the height before even you place, or else you can just create the level and then later use the temporary dimensions to control the height. So that is how we add levels. Now, when you are adding the levels, they have some names, as you can see. So we have these particular names. We can change them. If, for example, I select this particular level, so the level 1 is selected, and then I click on it, and then I click on this particular level. Once you hover the cursor over this name, level 1, it is going to be highlighted, and edit parameter pop-up is going to show up. So you can click, and once you click, you have the option to change the name. Let's say, for example, we call it ground floor. And once you press enter or you click on an empty space, you are going to get a notification here whether you want to change not just the name of this particular level, but the corresponding views. So this could be the floor plan views and also the ceiling plan views. Let's just proceed and click on yes. If you click yes, note how the floor plans are also going to be changed. So you can change the level from this point. So the name of the level from this point, like that, and you can try this with the second level. So I'm going to click on the name, and then we type in first story. We can just call it first story like that, and then you can just press enter. You're going to get a warning here, or else you're going to get a message asking you whether you want to change the would you like to rename the corresponding views. Just click on yes. If you click on no, the name of the level itself is going to change, but the floor plan name is going, or the plan names are going to be left intact. So let's just proceed and click on yes. And now we have the first story, and then we have the ground floor. Don't worry about the arrangement. You can as well change the name from this particular point. If you want to change the name of a floor plan, for example level 3, I can right click and then we click on rename, and then we can call it second floor like that, and then press enter. So once you press enter, because you've changed from the project browser, you've changed the name of the floor plan, you're going to get the notification here, or a message requesting you to rename the corresponding level and views. Now these levels, we have the level here, and then the corresponding views are actually the floor plan, the ceiling plan views for this particular floor plan. So you can just proceed and click on yes, and now you note that it have changed. We're going to change from this point as well. So I'm going to select this particular level, and then I click on the name, and then we type it, and then we add the name as third floor. So that is it, and then we click, and then you're going to get this particular message. So just proceed and click on yes, and now we have changed, we have created the various levels like this, and now the levels are shown like this. Now we see that one of the importance of the levels is generating the floor plans. Another important use is controlling or creating the data points, and we are going to see that. Another thing, or another importance of these particular levels, is controlling the height of the various components. Now let's proceed to the ground floor and then activate the wall tool. Now let's say I want to create a wall that has a height controlled by the levels. So in this case, you can just proceed at the instance properties, the top constraint, so not the base constraint. So let's start with the base constraint. You can decide to start the height of the wall to start from the ground floor level. So these are the levels. The top constraint, we can decide to proceed to the level up to the third floor. So that is it. So in this case, you have no control of the height, because the height is controlled by the levels. So if, for example, I click and I click once again, and then I click on modify to place this particular wall. If you view this wall in a view, in this particular view, a section view, let me have a shaded view. So we have the, okay, that is the shaded view style. We have this particular wall. Note the height is proceeding from 0 ground floor all the way to that floor. You can decide to proceed and control the height such that the base should be the first floor. In that case, note how the base is actually the first floor here. So that is the level. We can decide that the top constraint here is the second floor, and that of course will define the height, like you can see. So that is how we can use the levels to control the height of the various components. And you choose, or you use the constraints, and then you choose the various levels. For example, the base constraint, you choose a certain level. The top constraint, you choose a certain level. We're going to look at that later when we are looking at the wall. But for now, we just need to understand that the levels can be very useful when you want to control the height of the various components. So that is it. We can just proceed and delete this particular wall. Now, the next thing that we need to note is that when you are creating these particular levels, if you note carefully, we are clicking at this particular level at this point, and then you proceed and click to start placing. Now, if you have about 20 floor levels, or if you want to have a building that have 20 floors, that of course will be it will take a lot of time, and there is a way that we can reduce the time taken by using the copy. We are going to look at that very soon. Now, before we proceed to that, let us look at something here, and this is very important. Now, I had a wall that I had added, so I'm going to undo. So there is the wall. Let's assume that I want to create a point here, a control point, and I want that point to be the height of the parapet wall. Now, I'll click on this particular level. So click on the level, and then before even you click to start placing, proceed and uncheck make floor plan view or make plan view. So uncheck that. So in that case, this particular level is not going to be associated with any floor plan. So there will be no any floor plan that is going to be added here because you have unchecked this. So let's say the parapet should be 1200. So I can use the dynamic input to add 1200, and then I press enter, and I can add it at that particular point. I can just proceed and press escape. So note that now we can proceed and add a parapet to this particular wall height. So what I can do, okay, let me just move the wall a little bit so we can see the end. So what I can do is actually proceed to the top constraint here, and then choose the level 5. Now, before even we can change the name of this one before even we control the height. So I can click on this, and then we can call it parapet wall level. So we call it the parapet wall level. There it is. Okay, let me change the name here. So that is the parapet wall level. So it do not have an associated plan. It do not have a floor plan. It do not have a ceiling plan, because remember, we unchecked once we activated the level, we unchecked make floor plan view or make plan view. So in this case, this one is used as a height, to control the height only. It does not produce the floor plan or does not produce any plan view. So in this case, I can just select this particular wall, and then here I can have the top constraint is the parapet wall level. So that is the case. We don't have a floor plan named parapet wall level because we did not associate this particular level with a floor plan. Now we have a marker head. We have a head here. So look at this particular head and note the difference between a head with an associated floor plan. It has a blue filling. It has a blue fill, as you can see. Whereas a level without an associated floor plan, it has a black or a dark fill. So that is how you can differentiate between a level with an associated floor plan level and a level without an associated floor plan level. So that is it, and that is how we create these particular levels. We are going to look at more details about these particular levels.